Welcome to Black Girls Can Talk, the podcast where we dive into real, unfiltered conversations about what it means to be a Black woman in today's world. I'm your host, Dr. DaJaneil McCree, founder of Black Girls Can Talk. And here, we're creating a space where we can unpack everything from culture and beauty trends to mental health and the joys and challenges of Black womanhood. Whether you're here for the tea or looking for deep discussions, you're in the right place. So grab your seat at the table and let's get into it. Welcome back to the Black Girls Can Talk podcast, where we uplift, empower, and share the stories of Black women doing amazing things. Today we have a wonderful guest, Breana Ross, journalist, children's book author, and nonprofit founder. We'll be talking about her journey in media, the importance of representation in children's literature, and how she's using her platform to empower young voices. Breana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
And let's talk about how we met, because shout out to God. Really? No, that's exactly what I was about to say. Shout out to God.
To the big man upstairs.
Yes. So Breana actually hosted a group that I was in.
Well, it was even before that. So we have to talk about Serve Day.
Yes.
So we have to talk about Serve Day. So let me explain how the Lord works. So we have at our church, Union Church, go Union. We have a Serve Day, a big Serve Day every summer, where everybody in the church is just encouraged to like sign up for a project, and it can be like feeding people in need or, you know, various things. And so I was leading a serve site at the Maryland Food Bank. And that morning, Pastor was literally talking about how, like, there was going to be divine connections in the group. And, literally, like, it wasn't just about what you were doing, but it was also about the connections. So I met you. I met two other, Gina, Lauren.
Shout out to Gina
and all of you all wound up being in the Freedom Group that I hosted at the church that very next semester. So that's how we met. And yeah, it's crazy how God works.
That's so crazy. In my mind, it was Freedom because Freedom was so long, and like a good long. Like that's actually a good long.
It's so
Freedom
long,
was so
gosh.
long, so I saw you more at Freedom. You know what I mean? So in my mind, that's where I trace back to our meeting. But you're right. That's why I was even in Freedom Group.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up because, as you mentioned, like, you hosted the Freedom Group, and to this day, you're still helping people find freedom. And so I want to first thank you for that, and thank you for who you are for me. Like, I will always, I don't want to get emotional, but have a special place for you in my heart, and our other group leaders for helping me become free, because freedom look good on all of us.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I just want to point the praise right back to God, because I never, I didn't foresee like hosting Freedom, and it wasn't until like I needed freedom myself as a participant. Like, one of the worst experiences of my life is what led me to freedom as a participant, and then God, as he does, exceeds our expectations. And like, after going through freedom as a participant, like tapped me to be a host, and which I was like, oh my gosh, God, like really, like me, what, like why? Yeah, but it was the way that he used an experience that was ugly for me and turned it into something beautiful, where now there's people who, he's using me to help lead to freedom. It's a crazy thing. And I just, I'm really grateful that he connected us.
Yes, me too. So again, shout out to God. Shout out to Union Church.
To God,
I love
Union,
y'all both down.
Right? Freedom.
So let's get into it though. So I want to start with your journey in journalism, right? So let's take it back to college. So you went to the University of Miami.
Yeah.
All the
why I wanted to be a journalist, basically. Yeah. So it actually starts, the journey does start at the University of Miami, but not when I was a college student. It goes all the way back to when I was 12 years old.
Not 12.
12. Touring the school. I had a cousin who was 4 years older than me. Okay. So she was 16 in high school, going on college tours. And my aunt told my mom, like, oh, we're going to go to the University of Miami. And my mom's like, oh, we're going. I think it'd be a great experience for Breana. Like, probably just trying to go to Florida, but whatever. Right. But I just tagged along, like, little 12-year-old in the back. And she wanted to go into broadcast journalism. And so we were touring the TV studios at Miami, and we were talking to professors. And as she was kind of falling in love with it, so was I, right? Like, the trip was not for me, but, like, I was listening too. And I was like, wow, like, this really combines everything that I think I like and that I'm good at. And, like, I had never really thought about it before. But, like, writing, talking to people, telling stories, like, public speaking, if you will, I was like, wow, this is really, this really kind of combines the things that I like and I feel like I'm good at. So I, in that moment, made up my mind. I was like, okay, I think I'm going to study broadcast journalism here at the University of Miami. And it was like another one of those God moments, like where even at 12, like on the campus of University of Miami, like I had chills. Like I had this feeling that I was like, it's really crazy that even as a kid, like when I look back at it, like I had this feeling like I knew that I was going to be there. Like, I love it. And my parents, they were like, okay, cool, but you need a full scholarship.
Okay, like, who paying for
full
this?
Full scholarship, because Miami, that's a private school. It's very expensive.
Out of state.
And like by the grace of God, I got a full scholarship to University of Miami to study broadcast journalism. But like that's how it started, was shadowing behind my cousin. And it sounds shallow, like she wanted to do it, so I wanted to do it. But like that's really how it happened.
That's a good influence, though.
It is an influence, and the crazy part was that I'm actually working in that field. My cousin doesn't. So like it's almost like it was almost aligned, you know, to kind of to usher me into that. But also, you know, my family, I grew up in a family that really watched the news. Like we, you know, we got DC News. I'm from Prince George's County. So we got
PG County, Pretty Girl County.
Yeah. But no, we watched the news, and like my parents, you know, they were very well informed, you know, with what was going on in our community. So I watched the news in turn, and I think until I did that tour at the University of Miami, it didn't click for me. Like, oh, that's something I can do as a career. Like, I can go study that, and I can do that. But once it clicked, it really clicked, and so that's how I decided I wanted to do that.
That's amazing. And let me just clarify for the people who don't know, she does it and does it well, okay? She is a great journalist.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I do want to ask, because we are on the Black Girls Can Talk podcast, we want to talk about your experiences being a Black woman in journalism and how that may have shaped you today, any challenges you've encountered. Just talk a little bit more about that part of your journey.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about growing up where I did in Prince George's County is that I grew up around like so many successful people. And like I never like wondered if I could do it, if that makes sense. I saw Black people on my screen watching, you know, news out of DC. Like I saw that, and that inspired me to like go get that, right? So I think that was helpful for me, but I also wanted to be that for other people, like young people. In terms of my experience, like it has not in any stretch been easy.
Okay, got you.
You know, it's a lot easier now where I am now. I'm a journalist in Baltimore. Like I don't face a lot of the things that I did in my first job. I was in Fort Myers, Florida for my first job.
That's a little different,
it was different. It was very different than where I grew up, where I went to school in Miami, even though it's both in Florida, you know, it was just very different landscape. I think it was just really tough for me at first in a lot of different ways. I think in some ways it was a culture shock, but also I think I really had to learn to find my voice and to create space for myself, right? One thing that was a challenge there was like my hair, for example. And I know a lot of Black women in media kind of talk about this, and it's really evolved. Like it's much better than it was, you know, even like maybe 5 to 10 years ago. But when I first started, I remember we had an image consultant, and no shade to this person, she was just doing her job. But, that's real. You know, she was talking about how my hair had like too much volume. Like that's what she said to me.
As a Black woman or like, just in general?
In certain live shots. So keep in mind, like I, you know, was wearing my hair.
Right.
And it's Florida, it gets humid.
Right.
And, you know, obviously, like, the times where it was frizzing, like, I didn't show up to work with my hair like that.
Right.
Like, if it looked like that, it was because, And so, you know, it was like, it has too much volume. And I remember her, like, trying to smooth it down with her hands.
No way.
And just being like, oh, my goodness. And you know, again, like, I think there could have been a little bit more sensitivity there for the fact that, like, I don't have the same grain of hair as everybody else here, you know, as you or as anyone else that was there. And the only other Black reporter at the time that was at the station with me had a perm. So we just don't have the
totally
same.
Different.
Yeah. And so I think there could have been more sensitivity for that. But again, you know, she was doing her job, and there was an issue she saw that she felt needed to be addressed. But I think what it did is it created an insecurity for me with like wearing my own hair.
That's real.
And it's only something that in the last maybe year that I've gotten over. Like after that point, I was wearing like U-part wigs and like my, you know, like extensions and like, and it's nothing wrong with that. Like a lot of women do that. It's protective and blah, blah, blah. But what I realized when I really like thought about like why I was doing that, and the fact that like I really didn't want to like go on air with my hair out if I didn't have the U-part on, I think it just really created like a little bit of an insecurity. And now I think, you know, again, being in Baltimore, being in a place that like really embraces me, I think that, you know, it's something that I've finally gotten over, where like people have even encouraged me like, no, wear your hair, like it looks good, or like wear whatever you want, but your hair looks great. Like, you know, so you should wear that. So it's kind of almost undone what, you know, what was done before. So that's just one example. And, you know, I will say too, one great thing that came out of my experience in Fort Myers was I really embedded myself in the Black community, the Black church, and I listened to people and what they said about the news. And when I got there, people were not happy with coverage of Black communities. They felt like we were only there when there was crime, that Black people were only portrayed, you know, in a certain way, like very one-dimensional. Like we weren't covering the holisticness of, you know, life for Black people. Like we were only seen in a certain way or a certain light. And I took that to heart, and I really tried to change that. And I did, you know, our station for Black History Month, I did a whole series of pieces by myself, you know, shot them, edited them, reported them, wrote them about all facets of Black life, right? From Black-owned businesses to hair to just all of these different things. And then the next year, they let me do the station's first half-hour Black History Month special that I anchored and helped write and reported stories for. And I think having that seat at the table and being able to change something, because people in the community, they told me they really appreciated it, and they saw a difference in the coverage, you know, when I was there. And so I think that was something that I was really proud of. But yeah, I think that was a long-winded answer, but there's been a lot of experiences, you know, and like I said, not all have been positive, but like where I'm at now, like I feel embraced. I feel like the same things that I faced in Fort Myers are not the same things that I face now as a Black woman. Like it's not something that is even at the forefront of my mind now. And so,
And just to be clear, I love the details, so keep them coming. It's amazing to hear about, you know, just your backstory and like the different things that you've done and experienced. And it's great to hear, because I shared with you as well that I'm just in a different space now where I'm welcomed and accepted as a Black woman. So it's great to hear that you had some experience in the past that weren't as great, and now you're in a space that you feel comfortable in.
Yeah,
so, and that's what it's all about.
And it's and sometimes, like, you know, experiencing things like that are like maybe not necessarily as positive really makes you like appreciate when you have an environment that is inclusive and embraces you, and, you know, where you don't have to worry about some of those things.
It feels so freeing.
It
Come
does.
on, freedom.
It does. Freedom, praise God.
Right, amen. So let's get into your children's book. So you co-authored a book with your mom. I love her mama, by the way, y'all. She's so cute. Like,
does.
imagine her just like a little older. It just like, you fly too, but your mama.
She is. I'm convinced my friends like love my mom more than they love me.
No, we love you.
They love her. So cool. And I get it. I love her too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. She's so cute and cool. But yes, tell us more about that. Like, where did the idea come from for the book? How did you all decide to do it together? Yeah. Were there challenges in doing it together?
Yeah. Well, so it was actually my mom's idea. So my mom worked for the Prince George's County public school system for over 30 years. Wow. And in her time there, you know, she would talk about how she met a lot of kids who just really did not feel good about themselves, that were not affirmed, that she didn't feel like they were getting that positive feedback or those affirmations or that reinforcement at home. And it in turn impacted them in school. So the grades maybe, or the disciplinary, you know, issues or things like that. And a lot of it was because from her perspective and analysis was that they just really didn't feel good about themselves. They didn't know who they were. They didn't, have any sort of idea of what they could do in the world. It was her idea. She wanted to write a book that would uplift kids and that would remind them of all of the positive things about them. And she tapped me to help her because I'm a journalist. I write, I storytell for a living. And so, she asked me to help. And, as you kind of talked about with your book, like God kind of writing through you, just there was one night where it just all came to me at once. It came to me and I just started typing, and so that's sort of how it happened. And it became a really cool joint project because when I thought about it, like a lot of what my mom was trying to do for these kids through the book, like she did for me. My parents did. They were very, very, very intentional about uplifting me and affirming me and making sure I knew, like, I could do anything I put my mind to, right? And it helped me. Like, again, like I think I said in the beginning, like, I never wondered if I could. Like, I always believed I could do whatever it was God called me to do, whatever it was that I put my mind to. I believed I could, and I think that was because of them and what they told me. They told me I could, right? But also because of what I saw in my community. And so I think the book is really geared towards that. It's making sure kids feel confident and they know all the positive things about themselves. It builds their self-esteem. So we have affirmations from A to Z. The book is a story, too. It's about a little girl named Ava who goes on a journey. Who her mom, makes her do affirmations every morning in the mirror. And they kind of go through this journey from A to Z, listing out all the positive qualities about her. And, as Ava's affirming herself and as you're reading the book, like you're in turn affirming yourself as well. And so that's really the goal. We do have a second book coming out.
Come on.
The hot drop here.
Can we get the name?
Yes. Okay. It's called Exploring What I Can Be from A to Z. So it's very similar to I Am Affirmed from A to Z, except it has to do with careers. The main character is Isaiah. He gets a school project.
Come on, Bible.
He gets a school project, to present on a career that he wants to do, and he's flustered because he doesn't know what he wants to do when he grows up. And his parents kind of take him through, his parents take him through all of the different things he can do from A to Z. And what we really tried to do through that book is to expand kids' mind and their idea of what they can do. So, we talk about things like you could be a game designer, you could be a real estate agent, you can be an investor, you can be a judge, like, these things that kids might not think about at their age, an entrepreneur, like we want to get them thinking about that, being a computer engineer, like a surgeon, right? Like these things that, in our community sometimes, unfortunately, through my experience working with kids and especially young boys, a lot of them, when you ask, it's rapper, basketball player, right? And that's because that's what they see. That's what they see. The people that are making it out of their communities or the people that are...
That's how they got out.
Right. Or the people that appear to be successful, that's what they're seeing. And so but we want to expand it. Like, you can do that. Yes. Like, you got rap dreams, power to you. Like, come on. You want a ball, power to you. But also, you can be a lawyer. You can be a surgeon. You can be... all of these different things, and we just want to get them to see, like, there's so much you can do. There's so much. So, yeah, that's what the books are about.
Come on, books. Plural. Did y'all catch that? Books. We are a two-time author. Right. Come on. I love that. And so, not only, because we talked about you in media, we talked about, you as an author, but you are also a founder of a nonprofit. Let's talk about that. So I know a little bit about your history and background and like just who you are and your heart. So it doesn't surprise me that you have a nonprofit. Let's just start there. But let's talk about the idea for that. And even the title. So Written in My Soul. Where did that all come from?
Yeah. So Written in My Soul, a couple of things kind of merged together for the idea. But when I was in high school, I was a camp counselor for this camp that catered to homeless and needy children. And I just picked up that a lot of the kids had, obviously they were going through a lot, more than a lot of adults have to go through. And they just didn't know how to really express themselves in a healthy way. So we would deal with a lot of outbursts or disciplinary issues that to me were just because they did not have an outlet to express what they were feeling or what they were going through. So that's something I took with me, like, how can we figure out a way for these kids to express themselves? Yes. Well, when I was a sophomore in high school, we had a in high school we had a project called Written in My Soul, and the idea of the project was for you to either write a poem or find a poem that expressed what was written in your soul. And it became this really cathartic experience in class. Like, people were crying, people were like releasing things that they had bottled up, and it kind of was just like this light bulb moment where I was like, oh, like this could be, the way that these kids can, release as well. And so, meanwhile, I've always loved writing poetry. Okay. And so it's always been something that I've used to express myself. Gotcha. So I just kind of thought, this would be a good way for kids to do that too. So I didn't actually start it though until I got to college. Okay. When I got to University of Miami, they had a grant program. It was called the Social Innovation Grant, and it was for people that had social change projects they wanted to try out in the community. So I was actually the first recipient of that grant. I got that. I piloted the program when I was a freshman in college. It went well. Okay. And so we made it into a student organization at University of Miami. So that's how it started. And we would go to different schools and community centers, one per semester, and we would do writing workshops on using poetry to tell your story, like different writing techniques, performance skills, and then we would have a poetry slam at the end where they could share their work with their family, friends, community. So sometimes we would bring them to campus so that they could get to see a college campus. So that's how it started. And when I left University of Miami, the program continued as a student organization, but I still wanted to do it on my own. So I made it into a nonprofit so that I could do it wherever I go. So I did it when I was in my first market in Fort Myers. Okay. I've done it in 2 different locations now, with a couple more on the horizon here in Baltimore. And it's been really cool to just see how something like poetry can really be a release and an outlet for kids and young people in general, and how it can help steer them away from other ways that you might express yourself, right? So that's the whole point. Like, we want you to have this healthy way to express yourself as opposed to some other things.
I literally love that. That is so amazing.
Thank you.
Because I knew about you doing some work at your university, but it makes sense that you would do it here as well. But come on the horizon. Because just to be able to kind of take what you learned so young and so early on too, and still be living in that, and just wanting other people to be a part of it, I just love it. I love hearing about it.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for doing the work that you're doing too. Because you speak on just what it means for you to be helping the youth in that way, right? And there are a lot of youth that don't have people who would uplift them in this way, right? You spoke about having that, but as you are familiar,
right, and
especially in our community,
a lot of kids don't, and I think it's important,
It is. It absolutely is. So you said that you like to. You say you still write poetry, correct?
Not as often as I used to, but I used to use it a lot as an outlet.
Yeah, and so, a form of self-expression. So you mentioned poetry slams as well. How do you use it now? I know you said you use it less often, but are there like certain times where you're just like, oh, I feel like I need to get this off my chest, and you write it down? Like,
I think, unfortunately, it's usually times where things are not going so well. Okay. Like, and I think that that's good though for the kids. Like, I mean, you don't have to just write depressing poetry, but I think like if you are going through something, like, it's such a beautiful way to like express, right? And there are times where I even like go back and look at poems that I wrote. And I'm like, geez, like, and like it really is a testament for me of like God's deliverance. Like, wow, like that's where I was at. Like, that's kind of how I've used it lately, is just kind of going back and reading it and being like, wow, that's crazy. Like, God brought me from that.
It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy. So we talked about you all's upcoming book. I want to hear more about what's next for you. So we know that you have great things going on. And I may be even wondering, like, what's something that you want to do that you haven't done, that you maybe even put on the back burner, that you're thinking about picking back up? Like, what's next for you?
Yeah, I think, the children's books have been great, and they've tapped into, something I think is needed. But God actually put another book on my heart that is more like, it's for adults. Yeah. But it's a devotional. It's called Finding God in Small Places. And it's kind of in process right now. It's done. It's written, but it's in process, and in terms of approval and all of that kind of thing. But that's really like the next big thing for me in terms of writing is, and this is one that's a little bit scarier for me because the children's book stuff, that is. I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. We've run into a lot of, it's a process, but it's not as much of like your heart on those pages, right?
You, like, and that can be scary, yeah.
I think writing a book yourself and about stories from your life is a lot more vulnerable.
For sure.
And so I think that's what's next, and just, figuring out how to get that off the ground and really trusting like that this book and these messages like that God has given me will help people. I think, I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about even the Freedom Host thing. It's like, I'm like, God, really me?
Yes,
and not feeling qualified or not feeling equipped to do certain things, because, I'm not a pastor or I'm not a theologian or whatever. But like God qualifies the called. And if he puts
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, if he puts something on your heart and he instructs you to write something, like you got to believe that it's, for the advancement of his kingdom. So I think still trying to like just build that up, build the confidence up in that area. But hopefully that will be coming within the next couple of years.
It will. Yeah. Not hopefully. It will.
Yeah.
Because I see that for you as you were talking about it. Again, everything you're saying makes sense to me for your life and like what's next for you. But as you said, like even if you're not currently or feel like you're not currently equipped with something, he will equip you.
Yeah.
Especially because you're walking with him. And I see your walk and I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to say that, of course. Because you are a testament to others as well. And so just remember that, like he's already put all of this stuff and instilled all of this in you.
Yeah.
So don't sweat the small stuff.
No, I appreciate
that's the easy part. Like he got that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he got that. You just have to be obedient.
Right.
And do what he's calling you to do. So you got it.
That's so good. Yeah. We're working on that. We are.
We're going to keep praying on it. I'm going to pray tomorrow at Saturday prayer on it for y'all. Write it down.
Yes. So altar call for me.
Come on. So I do want to ask, in any of the facets of your work, so in media, authorship, nonprofit world, what would you want to say to a younger you, and or just a younger, and they don't have to necessarily be younger, but another Black woman wanting to or already in any of those spaces?
Yeah. I think, especially in the media and the journalism aspect, I would say to a younger person, like your voice matters and is valuable.
Come on.
I think when I first started, like as I kind of touched on, it took me a really long time to kind of find my voice and my niche. And I think I spent a lot of time trying to like fit in when like God called me to stand out.
Come on.
You know what I mean? And so I think, and that's not just for like, I mean, yes, for Black women, but for anybody, for a Christian, for, like you are called to stand out and your voice matters, has meaning and has purpose.
Yep, be set apart.
Yeah. And I think that's what that's one of the biggest lessons I think I've had to embrace is like, you don't need to try to assimilate.
Exactly.
Like
Literally.
You have a unique perspective that you're bringing to the table. And it was at my last market, as soon as I embraced that, that's when like everything changed. I was on my way out of the door at my first job. Like I was going to quit. I had applied to grad school. I got into this program at Penn. Like I was on my way out. And like the Lord said, no, like you are not done here. And as soon as I like literally embraced the fact, like, okay, you see this problem with the coverage in the Black community, like change, like that's your focus. That's why you're here. Yep. Like go do that. Like once I did that, everything changed. I loved my job. You know what I mean? So it was,
And it's so, just to hear you say that too, because I often think about how, like, it's different. Like, we all know that we're here to move the kingdom forward, right? Like, that's all of our purpose. But to know what venue or avenue you're supposed to do that in, and what the vessel that you're supposed to do that through, like, it changes.
It does.
Everything.
It gives you so much purpose. And I think, too, being able to accept it might be different depending on where you are. Like, that was my mission there.
Exactly.
But in Baltimore, it's a very different, like, scene. Like, Baltimore, like, you know, there's no issue with holistic coverage of the Black community, in my opinion. Like, it's a lot more coverage. It's a lot more, it's a different demographic altogether. So that assignment that I had there is not the assignment here. The assignment here is that people have a taste for positive, uplifting, you know, good news in the midst of, you know, a news cycle that can be really dismal. And so that's my assignment here, right? So being able to identify each place, like, what is the issue that I'm called to change here, right? So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, Breana, thank you so much for joining me. Yes, it has been amazing. We could talk probably for 2 more days. I know. But thank you for sharing your story, just talking about your passions, talking about what's next for you, giving some hope to others as well. And so your work doesn't go unnoticed. So, again, we want to thank you for all that you do. So let us know. How can we find you? How can we get the book and the upcoming books? How can we be on the lookout for all of that?
So we have a website, my mom and I. It's dbross.com. D as in Denise, that's her name. B as in Breana. Ross, ROSS.com. That's where you can buy a signed copy of either book from us.
Copies.
You can also get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you know, anywhere that sells books like that. You can connect with Written in My Soul. We have a website as well, writteninmysoul.com, I think. It might be .org. I think it's .com.
We're going to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. Sorry, guys. And then on Instagram, Breana Ross TV, Breana Ross TV. I usually put all of my links, you know, in the bio and everything, so you can connect that way too. Yeah.
Come on. And no, y'all, get the signed copy. Go on the website, get the signed copy. Because if you're going to get it, you might as well get the signed copy.
Get the signed copy.
Get the signed copy. So, yes. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
And we hope that you all follow Breana. Tap in with her. She's doing amazing things. So make sure you tap in, follow, like, do all of the things, and just keep up with what she has going on. Until next time.
Bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Black Girls Can Talk. I hope you felt heard, empowered, and inspired by today's conversation. If you love what you heard, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your girl. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at blackgirls_can talk to stay updated on future episodes and join the conversation online. Got something you want us to talk about or want to be a guest on our show? Hit us up on social media or visit our website at blackgirlscantalk.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, Black girls can talk, and we've got a lot to say. Until next time, stay powerful.